there's already. So yeah, welcome to the Alchemy Bench. It's me, some random geek, and John Bruckman. And like right now, it's just like us too for now. Others might be like join us. I hope that like our friend. Yes, he's really sorry, even though there's really nothing to be sorry about. It's just like it's understandable. Sometimes like people can't make it. There's been times that I didn't make it for the show, and the show was able to continue on. I was actually doing like canvassing for like Planned Parenthood or something like that. Small group tonight, today even. Yeah, it is what it is. Yes, I'm still sharing the link around right now, but but I just had to, I've shared to the major places like Twitter and like Facebook. So like, that sort of thing is like done there. And, so yeah, what else did we say? Then like, well, John Brockman, how are you doing right now? Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that would if I go back to college and like have to like take chemistry or something like that, that would be the class I would do. Good evening, Mithra. How are you doing? And hello, Joe, and hello, Tavi. Oh, how's everyone doing? I'm actually okay. I'm okay for the most part. Just like that more specifically says Twitch, so it's not self promote, so I can't really self promote a YouTube channel like a in the Twitch channel in Twitch Discord channel. But anyway, um, I'm mostly doing all right. Just like chilling. Again, it's another Saturday where I can't really convincingly say like John's muted. What?
Default for some reason, and boom, now it's picking up my mic.
Yeah,
And
there
now
we
you
go.
sound like crap to me, so let's go ahead and check out.
Technical
Oh,
difficulties
no,
all
now you
around.
sound fine.
Okay.
Okay, that was just a temporary glitch.
Hmm. Okay, well, okay, so John
Software is
Brockman.
stupid.
Yeah, computers are stupid. Everything is so stupid. So all you missed from what John Brockman was saying is just that like
New
he started a
semester
new.
starts tomorrow, teaching Chem 100.
Yes,
Otherwise,
exactly.
nothing new for me. And
Yeah.
now, because I finally showed up,
Sasha, cats. Still sharing around the link to all the places. Hope everyone is doing as well as possible. The promote channels right there. What's up with me is again, it's another Saturday where I can't literally like,
son of a.
can this well, yesterday was another Saturday where I couldn't convincingly say, yeah, I got work tomorrow. I got work to do. I gotta come into the stock room to do some work. It's just like no, it's like I I gotta cut down on my 6 hours, and I already was like excessively putting in hours, just like working 10 and 11 hour days, weekdays at my work when I really didn't need to be there for 10 and 11 hours on weekdays. So it's just like, yeah, I don't think I can convincingly come in on Saturdays and say yes, I do got work to do and just move around stuff. So I gotta like think of something to do, or like wake up really early for my Saturdays and to do some streaming on Saturdays. Well, like I did yesterday, I
Damn it.
streamed some Stardew Valley. Um, I know our original troll has like joined us, but don't worry, no, David Scott is a troll, but he's a good troll in that all he tells is just like terrible puns and sometimes good puns.
And now he is going to tell us about how Nazi bears killed the King of Sweden.
Get
As soon as he connects to audio.
yes, unfortunately, is always that like kind of first connection things were. And now David's connected, but probably muted. So like, let's get like
He's definitely
equipment
muted.
going. Because sometimes it's just like no, Zoom is this thing, and that's always like a struggle to like get that to set up as well.
So, well, oh,
Uh,
no, David's unmuted now.
Hello.
Hello.
And we can hear him. Excellent.
That's good.
So, Nazi bears.
And how
Yep.
silly does the king look?
The king is a silly person. I mean, his second cousin or something like that. I can't remember the woman who died in that other country.
There's a lot of other countries. You might want to specify.
And a lot of women died too. As
The
well.
woman who died quite publicly and was buried or something today or yesterday, wherever.
Oh, the Queen.
Yeah. And they're all, I mean, I think probably most of the European royalty is in some ways closely related. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, they're all horny as fuck and inbred as fuck. So yeah.
They're
And
all
also,
German
there
as
was
well.
that guy in World War One.
Yeah.
That guy in World War One, yes. Which one of them?
The one who got shot.
Yeah. Well, he was probably related to all the other ones. I mean, almost all of them were cousins in some ways. Victoria's grandchildren, most of them.
Yeah.
So
That bitch was
yeah,
horny.
yeah, probably. I don't know. She had like, I don't know, 7. Mithril is the expert here. He can correct me. I think she had at least 7 children, and then her husband died. So
And
that was sad.
remarried. It was so sad.
Yeah, it was. And I have to congratulate you, by the way, John, for living in a state that's now named after the King of England again.
Well, only his bottom half.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yes, Joe. Before a story that bears repeating. Nazi bears.
She had 9 children, Queen Victoria.
It was something like that, yeah. They were quite active.
Yeah. Prolific of that queen. And Metro says that I saw some good news. I saw from Bo today. Apparently, indigenous people are being allowed to buy at the Wounded Knee site.
Oh, that's so capitalism. We stole this from you. We genocided you, and now we're going to sell this back to you.
We don't need it anymore. We've like got everything that was like of use for us for this. Or there's nothing useful for us here, so you can have it back. It's like, gee, thanks. Reparations, land back. Just Wounded Knee, nothing else.
Let's start with a genuine apology, then we'll go into legal reparations.
Don't forget those treaties. There's some that you still don't like honor. And so. Yeah, Sweden had an election like last week. How did that go?
Nazi bear.
It wins nothing out of the ordinary, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Or something. No, it went strangely bad in all sorts of ways, but yeah. The first thing I always have to, when speaking to Anglo-Saxons of different guises, you have to explain that we have more than 2 parties.
Yeah. To be fair to England, they also have more than 2 parties. It's just they have 2 mean ones.
More than 2 parties that matter.
Yes.
I mean, I know you have more parties in the US as well, but they
I mean, the UK, they have the majority party, the minority party, and the party that has 2 seats. And Scotland.
But just I mean, analogous to England or the UK, sometimes those smaller parties actually have the role of, as they call it, kingmaker, because without them you can't. You can't get a coalition together that has a majority in the.
So that's how the Nazi bears took over. They're like the Dublin United Party.
Well, yeah, they're not going to, because no one wants to have them in the government. They're not going to be in the government, I'm pretty sure, because any government has to have a negative majority. That is to say, they have to get less than 50% no votes on their actually becoming the government. So
and enough people are opposed to the Nazi bears that won't happen. Okay.
Yeah, well, that's not going to happen. No, but they're going to have a lot of influence because they're the second biggest party now in the parliament. all of the other parties that are probably going to make up the coalition that is the government they lost support. So they in effect lost the election, but they're still going to be the government, which is well, again,
So why don't
if you
the
don't
communists just stage a revolution, kill the ruling class, and set up a Jew atheist Jew state?
because there are about I think 3 communists in Sweden, and they are members of 4 different parties. So they are probably not going to be the greater threat in this situation. It's an age-old sort of excuse that the liberals, well, they do this in every country, but they do it especially here because there is a left party that is an old communist party, but they haven't been a communist party for at least 30 years.
Oh,
And they're more
social.
They're more. Yeah, well, they're like the old Social Democrats, while the new Social Democrats are more and more veering towards New Labour, the sort of liberal, centrist Social Democrats that you have in most European countries these days. And
so not American centrist, but actual centrist.
Yeah, well, liberal, European liberals, centrist. I mean, it's a different kind of political landscape than the US, because everything in the US, mostly, at least on the national or federal level, is so much more to the right than anything we have in this country, almost.
Our left wing is still center right.
Yeah. We probably only have one party in the parliament in Sweden that's more, that's even remotely right enough for your Republicans. So,
and that would be the Nazi Bears.
Yeah, and most of the others are like, they're the sort of what is Francis Fukuyama end of history people who think that politics is basically just moving numbers around. And into all the kind of means testing and all this shit that most liberals these days are very, very much into. So if you're going to get any kind of government support, you need to be means tested out of your ears, basically. Unless it's like saving the skin of pampered middle class people who can't afford their gas bill, then they're very, very generous with tax money for that. So,
and they really love. Well, we really love corporate handouts.
Yeah.
Are they that bad overseas? I don't know.
I don't know. It's been a shit show most of this 4 years, because the last government was very, very, very weak and relied on the negative support of 2 of these liberal centrist parties that just basically made it impossible for that government to do anything, really. So it's been, and then Corona and all of this COVID, and I mean, it's just been, I don't know, it's not been fun. Someone asked me if
like
I want.
Having fun.
It's kind. I mean, it's funny in a sort of very dark way, because it's just so. It's you see all these people trying to do their best to. They know deep inside that they're making a deal with ex in quotation marks Nazis, and they're trying. There's like
They're
squiggly
trying to
like
be
worms.
less Nazi. So yeah, but go ahead.
They're trying their best to make it look like they're not doing it, even though everyone knows that this is the only chance they have of even getting close to a majority in the and it's like, and then you get this like everyone who's pointing out to them what they're doing and supporting it mostly with facts, because it's, I mean, this party, the Sweden Democrats, they're just over 30 years, a little more than 30 years old, so it's not like it's ancient history. Most people alive, or a lot of people alive, remember the Sweden Democrats from when they were founded, and back then no one had any doubt that they were Nazis. So it's like, and that goes for us. I mean, all of the people involved in this at the top level, of course, know this as well. And it's been, I mean, they're still Nazis basically. But
well, we still have the Pioneer Fund, and their favorite author is still running around pushing his Nazi book.
Mm. Yeah, and it's like it was very, very revealing, I think, because one of the factors is the fact that Sweden we were never, I could say, we weren't part of World War II. And therefore, we didn't really have the sort of general European experience. It basically was Sweden and Switzerland who weren't involved in that war.
Right.
And then, as a consequence of that, you don't have any people, certainly not now, they're too old or they're dead, who remember the real Nazis back then. And you don't have the experience, like the personal experience of a lot of people who've actually seen what these political movements can do to people. Yeah. So, and it's been very revealing looking at European media the last couple of days, because they have absolutely no filter on what's going on because they say, how can you let a Nazi party be the government makers of your country? I mean,
UK.
Especially you've got a lot of that from Germany, especially, which is kind of ironic but logical.
Yeah. Yeah, and unfortunately, it's like, yeah, I think it's like some of the similar problems that I hear today as well. With like, or it's almost like in like Star Wars, where it's like the new order is just like so they're far from the new from the old ones. I don't know where I'm going. My mind's been weird. My thought process was going somewhere, but I think like, no, wait, that's stupid. So I just like cut off from there. I'll share this where the less one of the few times I talked with my dad, this was like years ago, we went to see the Lego movie, I think, or the Lego Batman movie, and my dad was like talking about.
That was years ago.
Yeah, that was years ago.
I forgot there were Lego movies like that.
And the Lego movies are awesome too. And so, but like my dad, like was over a decade ago, traveled to Sweden for business. That's where I was talking to Sweden's, and he brought up like, of course, like Sweden is a socialist country because of the high taxes of like 65%. I pick up, I corrected them. It's like, okay, do the people of Sweden own and control the means of productions and like over there? How is Sweden socialist because of that? That's sort of a bit conversation there. But
if you think that having high taxes is socialist, then you really need to study some history and some.
The
other
U.S.
stuff.
is really socialist over poor people.
Yes,
I kind of feel like our friend John, our friend Ida's from Sweden, right?
Yes, no, Ida. Yeah, that's a different friend that we and I have as well.
I haven't spoken to her in a while, but everything's right. I know she's still around.
Yes.
She wouldn't be if it truly was a socialist country. I'm just going to say, because she talked to us about it, she wouldn't be struggling so much to get the aid she needs as a disabled person.
Yeah, because like just like with Ellie, just like with like Letano, it's not just U.S. that has like a terrible shitty like a benefits system for disabled people. That's a worldwide thing, unfortunately. The U.S. just has a lot of other terrible things as we're above. We're not the exceptional for being an absolute terrible country to, especially to poor and disabled people. So it's like, yeah,
we're just very good at it.
You tend to pride yourself on being the best, so that's good.
Yes, it seems like no matter what, we want to be the most important person, either the most important good person in our own mind, in our own ways, and like how we see things. We're bringing democracy to the world, or we're also like the worst people ever. Democracy, yeah. Or we're also the worst
Life
people.
advice from the wolf.
Yes.
Give up on worrying about whether or not you're a good person and focus more on how are your actions affecting your own life and the lives of others. Yes. This whole good person metric, take it, roll it up into a ball, throw it in the trash, focus on stuff you can actually,
Well, I mean,
quantify
let's
and
not
qualify.
forget that good person means white person.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, I used to have big arguments with family members, be like, "Oh, but just because this person said this bigoted thing, that doesn't mean they're a bad person. They can still be a good person and have some."
I met some people who are Trump voters that are good people. No,
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 this-
you met some
no.
Trump voters who haven't hurt you.
One of the things I remember was talking with a family member about. Do you remember when Orson Scott Card said that all gay people should be executed?
I remember hearing
It
about
doesn't
him
surprise
saying
me,
this.
though I don't remember him saying that.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
I only knew about it because I found members who were fans of Ocean Scott Card's books and just talking about this, and they're like, "Oh, but he still has all this other good stuff going." And I'm like, okay, just because he has these strongly held religious beliefs, I'm like,
Is the Mormon, right?
fuck your
Yes.
strongly held religious beliefs.
Yeah.
When your strongly held religious beliefs mean killing me, I think I have a right to take that personally. If you
Yeah.
you actually like state you want to kill me.
I feel you're probably overreacting.
To the whole death thing.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, some people. Oh, come on! Just the Chick-fil-A just has strongly religious beliefs. Chris Pratt just has strongly religious beliefs, as it were. There's even terrible evangelicals that just have strongly religious beliefs. Ken Ham, as it were. But it's just like, Jerry Falwell. I just remember a big one, as it were. But it's just like.
The Pope, who signed the Discovery Doctrine, had strongly held religious beliefs about taking land from indigenous people.
And
Hey, Isaiah.
hello, Isaiah.
You managed to join us in spite of the cold.
Yeah, I did. I decided to just pop in right quick.
Where are you?
I'm at my job. I work at the Challenger Learning Center in Tallahassee, Florida. But
Apparently they have the AC on real high.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's like, it's pretty bad because we have like businesses that sometimes come in, and like for like rentals and stuff, and sometimes like I don't know what they're gonna do. It's like it's like in the 50s inside these like buildings. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like I think now it's just like I noticed it when I was like late at night at like the bus stop and going home. It's like, wow, this feels colder now. It's like, fall's approaching. I gotta start wearing layers and like sweaters and like hoodies or like a shirt underneath my hoodies, as it were. So like, I'm just going to prepare for the weather change soon.
Well, it's actually warmer out here in the main lobby.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It struck me as wrong. I would have thought I would remember Orson Scott Card advocating killing gay people. He's definitely strongly against gay people existing. Thinks it's not actually an innate trait or anything like that, but instead it's like a sin or something, and that they want to destroy marriage. He was for a long time strongly interested in making it illegal, though it shouldn't be enforced against everyone, only against the most flagrant violators.
He had that stipulation still. I don't want to hurt people. I just want to punch the
just
most
the ones who are
egregious-
openly gay.
It's-
Yeah.
but I still want
So
to
yeah,
make a
he's
law
always
to
been
punish
super
people.
duper anti-gay, but I can't see anything here that he ever wanted to.
Which
make it
that's
a
upon
capital offense.
right, exactly. That is an important distinction.
It was
Yeah, he
somebody who
just
was
wants to force
actually
you
a
into
fan
the
of it.
closet where you will die.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was a fan of it who brought that to my attention, and I was like, what the fuck? So I don't know where they found that. And that was back
fan of
when I was
his
still in
came
high
up with it
school.
themselves, or got it from another fan of his who came up with it.
Yeah,
themselves.
but this was back when I was in high school. This was ages ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
but,
like 10 years ago, because you're like a young person.
No, I'm 36.
Okay, 20 years ago.
So more like
2018. Yeah.
like 18 years ago. No, less, more than like 20. Yeah, more than like 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It was a long, funky time ago.
And yeah, that's right. You're only 26 now as well, or 28.
I'll be 30 in like a couple weeks.
Oh wow.
Seems like every time
Didn't
I'm
you just
on,
turn
you're
28
discussing
for the
how old Isaiah is, and it's always wrong.
No, I don't think we should do that. That's like a game white people love to play with black people.
I remember. I think I was on your birthday, Isaiah, and no one knew how old you were. It was just like, what is it with this that people don't have any kind of memory?
Well, it's like I also have a very young face complexion, so people like us assume that I'm much younger than I am.
Now I'm curious. Hey, John Brockman, how old did you think I was?
Actually, I thought you were early 30s.
Oh, no, I'm 36. And struggling around with the cane and having all kinds of problems.
I also see a wolf plushie on the bed behind you.
Yes, giant wolf plushie.
Of course. Life goals. Limpy is going to be 31 in a few weeks. And Groundhog's turning 26 tomorrow. Well, early happy birthday, Groundhog.
Groundhog is the young one.
Yes. Even though both Savvy and I, Limpy and Groundhog, we know someone who's much younger, is a lot younger than us. This were. They were born after 9/11. September.
I'll be
11th,
hanging out with a bunch of 18-year-olds tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
Because I gotta clean these bathrooms right quick, but
Sure.
yeah.
So anything else? Okay, so later I'll say thank you for dropping and saying hi.
That's it.
Yep. See you next week.
Take care, Isaiah.
Interesting that thing that he mentioned Ocean Scott Card, because like I was actually seeing a discussion in like a Discord server about like Harry Potter. It was someone who only have seen like one of the movies, as it were, was curious if it's all right for them to like engage in the content of Harry Potter. Or they recognize it was ever a debate of like how terrible is like Jackass Karen Rollins. No, Jackass Karen Rollins is a terrible person, absolutely. But the question is like what point can they buy some Harry Potter or watch some of the Harry Potter movies, as it were, and at least not feel guilty of supporting like Jackass Karen Rollins, like after she's dead, for example, as it were.
She'd still have an estate, and I think she's probably going to like. I wouldn't put it past her.
She would get a couple of cents from you.
Yeah.
And also the question is like, what will the state do with that money? Will it donate to like a cause or something like that? Because like that's a big problem with Chick-fil-A, as well as like Chris Pratt, not only because they're big into views, but also where they put their money in.
Yeah.
Hence the boycott of the Chick-fil-A for sure, which also is not good chicken sandwiches, according to Steve Shaws and others as well.
I can make better chicken sandwiches, I'm sure.
All you have to do is boil it in peanut oil and then give it to peanuts.
Why?
Fry it.
Okay, fry it. I was about to say, what?
Literally, that's all their sandwiches are, is just a piece of chicken fried in peanut oil slapped between two pieces of white bread.
Yeah,
I can totally do better than that.
Yes, I'm allergic to chicken, and I can't let I do that as well. And Mithril's like 55. Wow, Mithril, I thought you were a lot older than 55 since you said that you're as old as dirt.
Okay, I just fed you. You're not getting fed again.
Oh, it's like cats being needy.
I thought you were talking to Mithril there for a while. I was reevaluating stuff.
That's a good point, Mithril. Buy the DVDs from the charity shops. Honestly, I cannot advocate nor condone doing illegal activities, so I should not tell you to go to like epic.com for like find some like sources of entertainment like Harry Potter, as it were. But then there's also people that have like examined like the issues with Harry Potter itself in the lore, like the representations of like goblins, as it were, and what they kind of are, as it were, and
you mean Julings?
Yes, exactly. Or how there's also like the supportive and okay slavery in there as well. It's like,
and then they mock the character who is like, hey, what the fuck?
We should eliminate slavery. Yeah. She goes beyond. She went from second wave feminism in the first book to like first wave feminism after that. The pro-slavery feminism.
But so like in my view, it's honestly, it's like, well, one thing is just like charity creators. It's up to you if you can separate the artist from the art. For me, I can't like listen to Tool's music anymore, even though I love Tool, knowing what like Maynard James Keenan did on the tour. To go into details of what he did would require content warnings. Let's just say it's definitely illegal. She said she was 17 when he was 36. Yes, and it was.
Yeah, I only knew about them. Wasn't it Tool that said they thought the Proud Boys were cool?
I don't know if it was Tool exactly.
I can't keep track of all these bands that just come out as fascists.
Did you know that Rage Against the Machine are woke?
They are at least woke. As politically, they all agree. Their differences has always come from music, as it were, which is why, like, they went. The rest of the members had like Chris Cornell as the lead singer for Audio Slave because, like, they were in agreement in their musically as well. But then that brand also broke up too. So it's like, still great music, but. And so it's up to like an individual people whether or not they want to support like the creators of the artists. Steve Jobs always goes through this every single time. He loves the movie Superman Returns, but what if he knows about Kevin Spacey and the director Bryan Singer, it's difficult for him to bring himself to watch that movie and enjoy that movie, knowing what he knows now about like those creators. And Letrano has always said on the show, if I just stop watching any like a show or movie or music or consuming entertainment that's like made by assholes and terrible people, that'll be a lot of like entertainment that just goes away, vanishes, as it were. Again, up to us. I can probably
so you'd have to just have fun with your friends.
Yeah, exactly. Hello, everyone.
It's also like it's a bit of selection. I don't know if you call it bias, but anyone who makes it in any of the sort of entertainment business branches probably has some kind of ego issues. The ones who don't, to the degree that's needed, they usually quit quite early on.
That's a good point.
I mean, it's very generalizing.
Wait, you mean CEOs
and there
are
are
overloaded with psychopaths for a reason?
Yeah, I think so. I haven't checked my Freud on that one, but probably.
I mean,
I can make up stories as well, so that's. No, I was thinking about Harry Potter. You could do it the easy way and just not be interested, because I remember I'm too old for that shit, because my little sister, who is 12 years younger than me, she was very into the Harry Potter whatever, and this was when I have to been 20 something, and I thought, what's this? Because I'd already read a lot of stories that were blatantly better than anything that one.
But it was super duper feminist. It had a girl.
I didn't really see that, but I wasn't the audience. It's like Spice Girls. It's not for me.
Interesting thing that like I went to Emerson Comic Con and went to author. So people that write just books but with just letters on them, no drawings, at a comic book convention. But like one author was just like took his daughter as well, 7 years old, to see Harry Potter, the first one, and she's like, "Well, that sucked. What do you think it's not? What makes Harry Potter so special?" Because of the blah, blah, blah. Oh, just because he dies, he's the most important character in the book? Well, who do you think should be the main character? Hermione. Why do you think that? She's always awesome. She's always the one that knows everything and knows the right things. And so that author then decided, okay, let me write my own books. And basically, Hermione's the main character, as it were. And he wrote a series of like young adult novels like that, as it were. And so you can see that sort of thing too. So there's other works that you can like definitely consume as well. And
Owl House.
Oh yeah, I heard about Owl House. I haven't seen it yet.
I thought you said Ale House. I was like, what the fuck?
I was into
Owl House.
my
Didn't Disney
ears.
screw that one over though?
Yeah, they did.
I picked up Bauhaus, which is
They kind of canceled it without even.
a whole other cooking fish.
Oh, hey, Phone Rock, welcome in. I recall it being mentioned possibly changing who is used for donations. Anything become that yet? I don't know if anything has become that yet either.
Patreon going to hell?
Yes, because Patreon did fire their whole cyber team.
Yeah.
And this is something that like Danielson predicted because of, like Patreon was bought out by venture capitalists, including like Eric Prince, and being like one of the board members of one of the companies that bought out Patreon. So,
Remind
Google,
me who
you
Eric
suck.
Prince is.
I googled Patreon, but communist, hoping to get that other thing.
camaraderie. Comradely.com. .co. Yes. We are. They
Enough people
haven't.
use it.
Yeah, we have we have a streamer friend, Emma Boyd, that does use that. I've been forgetting to like switch over my donations from Patreon to like camaraderie. But yeah, now what was fake news is that like someone reported that like the reason why the Patreon fired the whole cyber team was because they allowed kitty porn to be sold on Patreon. That's not true. That was total fake news, as it were. So it's true the whole cyber team being fired, but why, we don't know why. And I guess it is downsizing, as we're just like what happened to crack.com.
Well, if Patreon is anything like any of these other success in quotation mark stories of late, they don't make any money at all.
True.
Because, well, yeah, they're probably too effective. They've been too generous. Whatever. It's like anything. I mean, Twitch doesn't make money. YouTube doesn't make money.
Well, the thing with like YouTube and Twitch, which why they don't make any money, it's just the high cost of maintaining the bandwidth. That's a lot of bandwidth, and that's a lot of servers.
But I mean, Patreon is probably not. I mean, they don't have that much infrastructure, but on the other hand, they don't make that much money off their site, I think.
Well, yeah, they probably do sell a lot of information, like Facebook and Google and YouTube.
Oh, probably they haven't done that enough, and that's why they don't make any money.
not enough money for the venture capitalists that bought them.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's not like we can get around and we can pay our employees and so forth. No, that's not enough. You need to think of your shareholders.
Well, some of the egregious examples of that, like in the video game industry, I don't know of any other recent examples, but all the examples I always point to is like Activision Blizzard King, when like they reported like record profits and then laid off 8% of their staff the same year, essentially. And this was before we know about like the terrible allegations that like of like the Cosby Room and that sort of thing. So they were just a terrible, shitty capitalist company, but then they also were a terrible, shitty capitalist Dubro company as well. And now they're being merged with Microsoft, and I don't know the latest details about that whole thing as well. Harry Pothead book? I don't know about the Harry Pothead book, but so many people have made that like kind of like joke, as it were. Like I had a couple of friends in high school that looked like Harry Potter, but they're also stoner, so it was like Harry Pothead and then that sort of thing. Year nothing. It was like 3 weeks. Yeah. Where was I going? Where was I thinking? Where was the conversation go? Where did you come from? Where did you go? Where did you come from, Cotton Eye Joe? I would have made that joke anyway. I made that reference anyway. That's how my brain worked. Despite David being here, was just like did not factor in at all. Because Sweden doesn't
Oh yeah, they definitely like people came up with all kinds of strange stuff with that.
No, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but like maybe I already have, and I forgot that I mentioned it before. But like, any of you guys that play, anyone in the audience that played the game Guilty Gear?
We're talking about Bridget?
Yes, it has been officially, canonically, that Bridget, the character that was dressed up as a nun, was like one of twins and was born a boy, but had to be forced to be dressed up as a nun in order to like save his purity. Or
okay,
something.
Is that the origin of dropped a Bridget on him from
the
TV tropes?
There was this weird, creepy story about like the village Bridget was from having this superstition about having twins of the same gender. So usually either one would be killed or executed. It was weird and creepy.
Yeah.
And yeah, that is the origin of Drop to Bridget on him from Guilty Gear.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Because
for
the
fighting
reveal that Bridget is a boy. It
boy.
has since been
Bridget-
changed to gender reveal, unsettling gender reveal, and viewer gender confusion to disambiguate.
Yeah.
There's more articles that go into like there's stories in like the latest game
Mhm.
where she goes through a whole kind of questioning period and then just outright tells the other characters in the game as they, are giving her all the support to, say and decide what she wants. She says, "I am a girl,"
Hmm.
directly. And then it does actually translate that way in the original Japanese as well.
Hmm.
And
And
it being Japan, she doesn't have to jump through all sorts of shitty hoops in order to, get that done. All she has to do is go up to a kiosk, put in a card, change it from M to F, and she's good to go. Or
No.
in this case, it's probably still just F.
No,
there's still some problems.
that's not how it works in Japan.
No.
It is with other
They-
games.
They
don't
won't
have
let
to
you
do
do that in Japan unless you first get surgery and there's I'd have to look at it again. There's this really disgusting list of provisions
Hmm.
to get your gender legally recognized in Japan. Including surgery, including proving that you're sterile. I'd have to go back and look at it. There's like stuff about whether or not you've had kids and how long ago you've had kids, and
Yeah.
it's a lot.
Yeah, once they change their kiosk system will work.
Yeah, but
There is like a visual novel game series, and some of which are actually free, so you can just like play them, download them, and there's only like the extra content that you have to like pay for, like $1 or $2. Visual novels called like Hot Springs or One Night at the Hot Springs, I think is the word. It's a series of games. At least there's 3 of them, and they kind of like the main character is a trans woman in Japan, so they kind of cover all these like kind of topics as were, and yeah, so it's just like
it's a lot.
yeah.
Um,
Japan has their own issues.
I think I remember one of our streamer friends, Marisol, getting into it, and I forget if she was able to continue doing it, playing those games on stream.
Mm-hmm.
Just watching her play One Night in Hot Springs and seeing everything the character went through was a lot for me as a trans woman who is in the US and not in Japan.
Yeah.
I would very much so encourage any cisgender people to go play it.
Yes.
I will also say that for trans people, please be kind to your mental health. It is very kind to the characters involved, and but it's also very honest about all of the
evil shit that people have to put up with.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's like being somebody who's gone through some of similar struggles, but not necessarily the exact same ones, but a lot of similar struggles of like, because like this scenario is, she's being invited to go out with her friends to a hot springs. And like one of the first things is legally, she can't put down her gender as a woman. Legally, when she signs into the hot springs, she has to put down what her gender is. And like the only way she's able to go to the hot springs and enjoy the hot springs with her friends is because her friends, did a whole reservation thing, so they didn't have to get split into,
Male
the
and
way
female sides.
right. And that was as far as I got, and there was like a whole bunch of stuff, and there's that, and I was watching the whole thing with Bridget because like there are a whole bunch of news articles. I was like, yeah, people went through this, and she full on has this thing of she comes out and says, "I am a girl," and the backlash from at least because I don't know what's going on in Japan, but the English speaking otaku, weeaboo, whatever you want to call them,
Assholes. Bigoted assholes. Who play video games.
Everything they can come up with to deny it. Every attack on with slurs and misgendering at the trans people who are celebrating it. A lot of them going into like, oh, but like sometimes, you know, people who are otokono will say that I'm a girl, but that gets into a whole bunch of complicated shit that the US English speaking otakus know shit all about.
Mm-hmm.
I was studying a little bit into it and just enough to find out that they don't know what they're talking about, because one of the first things I found out is there was a trans woman in Japan, and I guess quite a few others, that um there are sex workers who are both cisgender men who cross dress and transgender women who both use the name otokono to advertise what they do.
Right.
It gets into a whole bunch of other stuff that I don't really recommend looking up unless you really want to deal with some creepy shit.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like they go on this idea of, oh, well no, she's not a woman, she's, you know, a boy dressed as a girl. And there's this whole word and accusations of, oh, but you're doing all this colonizing by trying to suggest that she's a trans woman. And like, no, trans women exist in Japan, and they get treated like shit for it, and they get told that no, you can't be a trans woman, you have to be a boy that dresses like a girl.
Yeah.
And
Because they'll accept the boys dressing up as like girls, femboys, that sort of thing, but not like trans women. Yeah.
right, it's I was looking into it a bit, and it mentally and emotionally it was a lot just to look into.
It almost reminds me of how, yes, there is such a thing as like Nazi cat boys, cat femboys, as it were. And that goes into
Never forget Goering.
it goes into a whole thing there, is where it's weird that like some of those like Nazi cat boys do like to dress up as a femboy, a cat boy, knowing that the Nazis would hate trans women, obviously, and like gay people as well, but yet they like to fetishize the femboys, cat boys as amusement, as it were. And yet
It's this weird.
They're the Milo of the bunch.
They also get into this weird thing because of this. Like I see this. I remember seeing this shit thrown around. I remember still angry about. I used to like a game called Heartbeat, and then the creator came out as a huge turf. The accusations of, oh well, trans women won't allow, or trans people in general, like with that creator, it was, oh well, trans people won't allow girls just to be scruffy girls, that they have to make them into trans men. It's like, no, that's not a thing. And the accusations of, oh well, we can't have, you know, effeminate men and femboys and all these other diverse gender expressions because trans people are going to force them all to buy full on
Have they
binary.
never seen the show White Collar?
Nope.
It's the continued. It's always the thing. It's a straight up turf talking point of the very false accusation that transgender people by existing are trying to force a greater gender binary, when it's like, there's a fuck ton of diversity when it comes to gender expression.
Hello.
You don't count. You don't have a gender.
And some people don't actually. Whereas
they're agender people, new choice, all those different expressions, they exist.
gender boy, gray gender is a new one.
Hi, gray gender.
Yeah, that's a new one that I learned, not necessarily new created gender, but so what if we create genders as were, like they can be as many genders as there are stars in the sky, and like some many people as well.
Gender expressions and experiences are just fucking diverse. It's awesome. Celebrate it.
Interesting thing is like last Sunday, I think, on my Twitch stream, a viewer and John Bruckman knows his viewers because his viewer of C5 as well, 255AD, kind of like asked me open up about like a gender. He like questioned his gender, but he came back to like affirming that he's a cis man, because if like gender's costume, pick your costume, he would pick like a Roman gladiator or something like that. Something to him feels masculine, so he'll pick a costume of like something that's like represents his masculinity, and that's where he, since he is born and assigned him as male at birth too, he affirms that like I'm a cis man, as it were, which hey, that's a nice way to look look at that. If you get to choose your costume of like what is your gender, as we're, and this is not to say that like all gender is drag or anything like that, like that misquote of like Judith Butler, or but like you can see that's that what it would be the costume you choose, as were. I wouldn't mind being a cat boy or like a cat girl, as were. Or for me, I just know that like I'm not like a woman in that like if I get to change into the feminine body or a feminine cosplay, as it were, Sailor Jupiter or something like that, uh, then I would like, but I wouldn't want to permanently say that, as it were. Whereas, like most trans women, when they get given that button test, that button question, as it were, and they will say, "Yes, I will press the button to change myself into a girl right now," and you never get to change back and forth. I'll still press the button, as it were. For me, it's just like, I don't know. I want to be able to change back, essentially. Um, what would my gender costume? My gender costume. I think Wolf can answer that.
You want me to say that out loud on a podcast recorded to YouTube, Groundhog? Can I use your actual name? I can never remember.
We have heard use her actual name before on like on Such Justice Alchemy.
Okay,
Yeah,
totally
work
will
for that,
if you're okay with me doing that.
As that's another thing. Hey, Vonrak, it's like I have no clue what it means to be male, and that's one thing as well. Is that like in 255 they did like presses that he sees that a Roman gladiator to be masculine, and so Groundhog says sure. Yes, and so that's one thing. What we decide is masculine and what we decide is feminine is in the eye of the beholder as well.
And Groundhog, aka Paige, is a very cute witch.
Yes, blue hair witch.
Her expression very frequently is witch. Big, pointy, floppy hat, long hair, the robes, the whole thing.
She even has created a V-Roy avatar of herself as well.
Yep.
With the big floofy hat too.
I want to make a new V-Roy avatar.
I might make a V-Roy avatar as well. At least I have a PNG of myself as I'm looking at myself, just because I'm frequently in other people's streams and hey, it's a way to represent like, hey, this other person is talking in the Discord call, and they're like, yep, that's me, and here's the PNG of that. So see, Georgia P. I heard that non-binary get a lot of bigotry too, because people would say they don't exist in some countries because there's no gender neutral words for them. It is a problem in the languages. There's no gender neutral terms for.
Now I'm just remembering Friends from the 90s.
Yeah.
Sometimes men love women, sometimes men love men, and then there are bisexuals, though some say they're just kidding themselves.
Yeah, 90s. So it's just
they were very progressive.
I mean, whose line is it anyway? I love whose line is it anyway, but because it was at the time of the 90s, it was oh geez, no, that's a gay joke. No, that's the joke is secret pages from Drew Carey's diary. What if people find out that I'm really a woman? And it's just that's not a joke now, because it's yeah, but that's the thing too. It's Colin Mockery would recognize that oh yeah, those were terrible jokes is that I would not make now because he has a trans daughter and Keelan Mockery as were. So I think all those people do recognize that okay, yeah, we told those jokes in the past before, but we're not doing that now. Which reminds me of that article that you also shared, Tavi, about some songwriters that are rewriting their songs to exclude ableist words. Where I'll find that article and share it. Because
don't ever look up supercuts from Friends, because they have supercuts of all the gay jokes. That show ran for 10 seasons.
Yes.
Also, we'll say something on something you kind of mentioned, like your friend going through a whole gender questioning thing and then reaffirming I'm a cisgender man.
Yeah.
Cisgender people who go through a whole thing of self-examining their genders so that they can come back and go, okay, this really is my gender. Fuck yeah, this is my gender. They are fucking awesome. I just want that said. I just think that's cool.
Yeah, exactly. It's because like definitely people can like question their gender. I think that link should work now. I added like I accidentally screw up on the copy and paste. And so that the surprising history of slurs, Beyonce and Lizzie both cut from their albums, as it were. I think it's referring to like the R slur or something like that.
There was
Oh,
also a word that started with S that had to
yes.
do with like epilepsy and stuff like that.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's old school.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. It
The
was a word I did hear used a lot when I was a kid.
same
And
here too.
I
Yeah.
forgot that.
Sort of like you don't realize that lousy refers to being covered with lice.
Oh yeah, we don't use that in that context anymore. Wow. I mean, like, which one is it? Dumb is like not be able to hear or something like that. No,
Speak.
that's speak, not be able to speak. That's
Mhm.
right. So it's mute. Okay, that's
Mhm.
right. Yeah, I don't. I had to like look up the origins of moron and idiot as well, because like, yeah, as I used to do that too, and there's some people that still do it, or stupid is worth, and it's so
Like
big.
idiot was a medical term, then it had to be replaced by moron, which had to be replaced by
And yeah,
retarded.
which
Mhm.
all have their connections in to people who formed the ideas that became eugenics.
Yep.
Mhm.
Hmm.
There's
It's very
actually a Supreme Court
fascinating.
opinion.
Hmm.
I know there were societies back in the early 1900s or late 1800s that would call stuff like helping the idiots foundation, roughly translated, and it was like a charity organization by probably very kind-hearted people who are trying to help people with mental illness. But when you look at those these days, it's like, what?
Hmm.
And yeah, as long as I think, I mean, history is history in to a certain extent, and the thing is, when you're trying to like if you're using those words now and trying to make them into what they were, how they were, how they were seen back then, uh, then you're probably not on the right path, because I mean, there are a lot of words that were used by progressives back in the day, different situation. If you use them now, you'll probably be called all kinds of stuff with
Mm.
probably and justly so, I would say, because it's all about context. I mean,
Mhm.
that it's I wouldn't excuse the friends shit, but to a certain degree it's a part of the acceptance of there actually existing such a thing as a gay person, because
Hmm.
before that it was more or less that the mainstream was that no, gay is it's an illness, it's a sickness, it's something that
Hmm.
if it exists at all. I mean, the kind of religious nuts and others like Orson Scott and those people, they're still in that mindset, and to a certain degree it's
Mhm.
moved on. I'm not saying it's perfect, but
Hmm.
it's a sign of progressiveness, and a lot of stuff, old stuff that was seems a bit strange today in its time. It could be seen as a step on that road. Still doesn't. I mean, if you
Mm.
still think it's a good thing to do, then you're not. Then you haven't moved on.
Yeah, exactly.
You haven't
Uh,
progressed.
hmm.
But in also we can point out in the terms of progression of the idea of progression.
Mm.
Hmm.
Um, like Jonathan, I know you at least you watched Twin Rabbits movie A Queer Thing Native Thanksgiving.
I think so. I need to watch more of the Twin Rabbits like
It,
videos.
it-
That's
it's the
sort.
one that gets into the history of how colonizers came over and did a lot of violence to anybody who didn't conform to the white Christian European idea of gender
Mhm.
as
Oh,
like as a primary way to destroy confidence within native communities.
is okay. So, like, I know I did not see that video, but I'm not surprised about that history as were because I would be. I don't remember this as well. I was like informed about this, and then like I reaffirmed this as well. That like saying that like there's only two genders, not only is it like the non-binary-phobic and queer-phobic as well, but it's also colonialism, because the indigenous people of Turtle Island, many of those cultures have their own views on genders as were,
Mm.
where some of those tribes, and it's specific to certain tribes and not all of them, they have a two-spirit, and that's the specific spiritual thing through like their cultures were, but it was
Mm.
a gender that was not man or woman as it were. And so when the European settler colonialists came on and were trying to enforce their views of patriarchy onto like the indigenous people, who, and of course, like the ones,
Using actual violence and murder
yeah,
and
uh,
genocide.
yeah. So no, I did not see that like a queer
A
native.
queer native Thanksgiving is what it's called.
Yes, I have not seen that video, but I will post the link to that one in the live chat right now.
Um,
I do recommend people check out the Twin Rabbit, a indigenous anarchist, and with a lot of like really useful like videos on various different topics.
um, and like I used to know where there was a thread I was reading through at one point on Twitter, and I unfortunately don't know, but you can get into like cultures in Africa that used to have these really interesting, diverse ideas within their languages, within their traditions, within how their societies were organized with regards to diverse and fluid gender rules that people could move between through based on their what they felt was the role they felt called to. There were hundreds and hundreds of different cultures in Africa, hundreds and hundreds of thousands in the Americas, or what we call the Americas now. And yeah, there is this whole thing of this whole concept of, oh, there are two genders, there's the man and the woman, and this is how they get organized into family units. That is an idea that, while you can find other cultures where that idea kind of came about, it is white European Christianity that through violence forced that idea on the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So when we start unraveling that, it's the idea of it, well, things progressing forward. Well, progressing forward from white European Christianity destroying all these other ideas first. So all these ideas existed in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And then very specifically, the ideas that now we kind of refer to as whiteness, white supremacy, and all that are what destroyed all of that. So, and oftentimes I also will say, because it comes up in a few places, like the white queer community is not very good at recognizing this,
Mm-hmm.
and not very good at recognizing the very white supremacist origins of queerphobia,
Yeah.
and not very good at recognizing their own white bias within their communities sometimes, a lot of
Right.
times.
This is why the streamer Sefi, African Puerto Rican queer woman, and she has said like she loves the queer spaces she's been, but when there are queer spaces that are just like very white, she likes to be in like some queer spaces that are not white, for that reason, as it were. Joey Indigenous Heretic was on like Fluid Voice about a month ago to talk about like racism in queer spaces as well. Even the transphobic bigot Dave Chappelle can like recognize that like, hey, white queer people can call on their white privileges when they need to, like when the police showed up, as were. Because this is also something that I will always point out, that like, even though like people will think of like the Greek gay liberation of movements with like people like Harvey Milk, who's like was presentable enough and want to make changes within the system, and not saying he didn't do good things, because like it was an inspiration from him, but like some people like that kind of like gay man, as it were, the simulating gay man like a Pete Buttigieg, where it's just like, I'm just like you if I happen to be gay, when like the first Pride was a motherfucking riot at Stonewall by Martha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera, a black trans woman and the Latinx trans woman, and they're all like non trans people and non-binary people of color that was started the first Pride, as it were. So there's that radical history, as a word that's sometimes not often, but sometimes gets forgotten as well. So Latino trans NB California's actions are scaring me slightly with the mental health courts. I have not heard
What's
about
up with
that.
that?
I'm kind of not surprised because like unless like California has finally got rid of their gay panic defense this word, then like it's because again there's more Republicans in California than there are in Texas as a word just by numbers. And Joe McClary also brought up the great point is where it's that like don't forget that the first books the Nazis burned were on gender expression as it were, because
They
we
burned down
lost.
the Institute on Sex Research.
Yes, exactly. Which is why I always like say queerphobia. Be careful of those who are queerphobic, because we're first of all just don't be. But second of all, if you like say don't like gay people, as we're you have some company with Nazis, basically.
Scratch a
Uh,
liberal.
mhm. Yeah, I don't think this person was a
And the
liberal.
fascist bleeds.
Yes. Is and fascism it can sometimes still get like electoral wins because that's how Hitler got the power. He was elected. A lot of the people, some not terrible and some actually terrible, they kind of like it made the conditions right for him to like gain powers, or like one judge let him speak for like a long time and not throw him in jail, or he put Hitler on house arrest where he could just like hang out at a castle with his buddies, and that's where he wrote Mein Kampf. So it's just like, I know Sweden has like fascists in the government. No, wait, Sweden always had fascists in the government. They just now have positions of power, right? Hey, David.
Well, I don't know. It depends on how you would define fascists. But always, I don't.
Do you
probably
or
not
do you
always.
not have Nazi bears?
I don't know. I haven't interviewed them. There are no studies of Nazi bears. No, there are a lot of. I mean, it's revealing in a way that a party like that gets 20% of the vote because also unlike I'd say America's UK has quite a lot of quite a high voter turnout, but we had this last one was 84%, I think, which was down a bit from the last one, which was 87 or so.
I see.
So 20% is quite a lot of people.
Yeah,
it's about 1.5 to 2 million people who actually voted for this party.
Yeah.
And that's more really not so much for me because I'm not one of the groups that are most affected by their politics.
Yeah, because you live in a haunted church. You have way more to worry about.
Yeah, well, it's more down to the things that I'm not, which they tend to think is a very good thing. That I'm not an immigrant, I'm not a woman, I'm not gay or trans or whatever you have. So, but it's horrifying. Basically, I can't. It's happened like in 10 years or so. They've gone from a marginal party to this, well, the second largest in the parliament. So it's not good.
Mm-hmm.
So and there seem to be, I mean, because once the sort of Main Street right or liberal parties and their press, which is the dominant press, like in many other countries, once they were on board with, we have to have this party if we're going to make a coalition government, and the only way to beat the other sides, so to speak, and then they start making excuses and they start moving the goalposts, and yeah, it's horrifying. It's and Hitler, it's like a tired trope, but Hitler wasn't elected. They never got a majority. They were invited into the government by the other right wing parties at the time, and also with a high voter turnout, because Weimar democracy in Germany was actually one of the most democratic systems around at the time. So it's to a certain degree, it's he was voted in because they were the largest party, but without the participation of the quote unquote establishment, he wouldn't have gotten where he got.
Yeah.
So
The liberals hoped to neuter the Nazis and failed utterly.
yeah, it was like the classics. We bring them in and we'll sort of give them the ropes and let them know that they can't. They have to behave themselves and so forth. And it took less than a year before Hitler was a dictator, effectively. So
There
very
is
good.
only
Great work.
one moral reason to quote to Nazis, and I'm not going to repeat it on YouTube.
Which probably means, hugging them.
What?
Something about hugging Nazis is probably what you really meant. Yeah.
It was something like that. Yes, probably. Yeah. No, you don't really want to be in the same room as them. That's just what it is. I mean, I had someone on Twitter expressing, and pointing this out, people who say that you can have different opinions and still be friends. Yes, when it comes to condiments, perhaps, but not when it comes to racism and Nazism. If you have a quote unquote friend who is a Nazi or racist, then it shouldn't be your friend.
Yeah,
unless they change their mind, because
I'm
that's
not
not
going to
an
be killed by
acceptable.
somebody.
Go ahead.
I'm not going to be killed by somebody having pineapple on pizza.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you sure? Because I think that's
I'm
probably.
fairly certain. Yeah.
What if they're a witch
It's not
and they're
for that
allergic to
reason.
pineapple and they curse you to suffer their allergies?
But that's it goes back to like how we will always say there's just like it's even if like someone is a good person but is conservative or a fascist, and because like conservative in the American context it's fascist. Oh, but this person, my life was saved by a conservative. And it's like, I'm sure that conservative person did save your life as like you were attempting things.
But they hurt all these other people.
Yes, exactly. With how they vote. So, and at least it's David, you can correct me on like Sweden is where, because like at least like you said, you have multiple parties here in the USA. We have only really two viable parties as well, which is why you get like the majority, or like this is why you get like at least 40% of the voting population of the USA, they'll vote for the Republicans because like they always go with them, and or it's like they're conservative so they agree with them, or it's like for some people they voted for Trump just because they didn't like the other person, or it's just like, oh, Biden's going to raise my taxes so I'm going to vote for the Nazi party essentially. Or well, it's like in Sweden, I'm guessing also you have like ranked choice as well, or tell me about like Sweden's election system as it were, because like
it's quite simple, really. It's we don't have the because you usually have two viable candidates in each district or whatever you call it. I don't remember. But even though you can vote for a candidate in Sweden, you usually vote for the party.
Right.
And the candidates are chosen by the party. Unless someone has a certain number of votes for that person, and then they get to jump the queue, as it were. But it means that the party line is much stronger, I would think, than it is in the US, because you can see in the US sometimes you have people being elected and then moving quite a lot between different not necessarily between different parties, but different associations in the Senate and so forth, and then you have that kind of problem. We don't tend to have that problem. That it usually is if someone is revealed to have done something that the party doesn't like, and then they are what they call the wild, which means that they are still a member of parliament, but they're not associated with any party. Which means that they can have quite a lot of especially when it's a very evenly balanced parliament, they can have quite a lot of influence. But mostly it's the party line is quite strong with most parties. And then we have 8 parties in the parliament. So and there really isn't any. The largest party has 30% of the seats. So you need different coalitions to get anything done. And the negative majority is the rule. So what you need is, if you have a proposal, you need to not get 50% of the House against you. If you're the government, that's the sort of the rule. And we've had a lot of turbulence in Parliament over the last 4 years because there hasn't been a clear majority or a clear negative majority. So it's complicated, and there are no, at the moment, I'd say there are no clear coalitions that would include all the parties in the coalition. So you have a smaller group that would form any kind of government, and then you've had supporting parties who negotiate with the government for whatever policies they want included in the program, so forth. And politics, no one ever gets what they want.
Except the
Basically. Yeah.
In the U.S., it's the
but that's a given. That's a given. I mean, Sweden has, over the last 10 years or so, Sweden has skyrocketed on the lists of inequality, which are put out, because the rich get richer, the poor get poorer, and the welfare state is crumbling because of they're basically selling it to private companies and so forth.
So they're doing what the Nazis did to Weimar Germany.
In a way, I don't. The Nazi, one of the things that the Nazis didn't have was a coherent political program outside genocide and war.
Wow, it's weird that the Nazis actually almost compare favorably to neoliberalism in that regard. Say what you will about the Nazis, at least they didn't have a coherent plan.
They had very clear ideas about some things, but about most things they didn't have any idea. So it's like, yeah.
Yeah. And so yes, even like in like represented democracy, yes, Nazis gain power again. Sigh. And to which like 255AB asked this to Steve Shives on the Friday's Ask Away, but Steve Shives still is in favor of representative democracy because like just because like a terrible results happen a few times doesn't mean it's a bad system as well. I just have
a few times.
According to Steve Shives,
why not just have a 1,000 member parliament whose members are chosen at random from the entire population?
But
that would have the negative
to be
consequence of putting poor people in charge.
No. But they have to be male, and they need to have a certain degree of property. They need to own some slaves, and they need to be citizens. Then you have true democracy.
Which is what the founding fathers hated democracy and came up with that system.
Yeah.
We should have rule by the people. I mean, the real people. Not the property people.
Ruled by the deems.
It's the country we live in, as we're.
Thank you, Mythrid.
Yeah, you need to have David on more often. He has a very relaxing voice.
It's because I'm a bit congested because I have some kind of cold or something. So, and then it goes bass.
Yes, and Jordan RP, I see your comment about hugging Nazi like a very hungry boa constrictor, as it were, which we cannot advocate and condone that. And apparently, also, even if we say that like in Fortnite or in Minecraft, as it were, you can't get in trouble for that.
Yeah, because they know you don't mean it in Fortnite.
you need to find the proper video game, and then you can use it.
So, just to make it clear here, so. Never mind the Nazis. But the pseudo-Nazis, the Republicans and all that shit.
They're Nazis.
Yeah.
They're Nazis, we know this.
Yeah.
Well, they're fascists anyway, so...
Yeah.
A lot of them are Nazis. The rest
they
of them
go and promote all this shit about how, like, disabled people need to have their benefits taken away, which would lead to, more disabled people dying. Oh, we don't want to pay for all this stuff for unhoused people. And I mean, both the Democrats and the Republicans continue various forms of genocide against indigenous people. Really what's been going on, it's still going on. I mean, Biden is better at, arrests and deportations of immigrants than Trump ever was. No surprise there. With a lot of this, also a lot of the migration now being climate motivated, because climate, in addition to United States imperialism fucking everything up, is making everyone's lives miserable further south. And that climate problem, also kind of being caused by the U.S.
Yeah.
Well, it's caused by the Imperial Corps. Let's not blame it all on the worst offender.
Okay. And by the Imperial Corps, we basically mean all the white colonizer countries.
Yes.
14%
Include
of the
UK,
world
Metro.
population, 75% of the wealth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I mean, I know there's going to be people like, oh, but what about China? I'm sorry, but the United States, Canada, Europe gets all their material goods made in China. So shut up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where the fuck was I going with this? But yeah, okay, so they can advocate for all this stuff that, involves actual violence against people. They can go and advocate for, all these horrible things to be done to queer people and so on and so forth, to erase us from existence. But we can't say shit that, okay, can we respond to violence with violence? No, if we say we want to respond to violence with violence, all of a sudden we're the horrible demons.
Mm-hmm. You make the left look bad by advocating for violence like this and making these memes, guillotine memes, and it's like.
I know there are people who say that, but I'm like they pull this shit when if black people say that, well, maybe if black people want to actually resist police violence and murder and control and exploitation of labor through the prison system, and just want to fucking go out and protest. Oh, but you're protesting the wrong way. You're getting at people.
You're blocking ambulance that's coming through. What if an ambulance need to come through there?
You're literally just kneeling, saying nothing, doing nothing.
And it's read as violence by white people.
Mm-hmm.
It's kneeling.
Okay, which gets down to one really, really horrible question to ask for the white liberal and further right-leaning people. Why the fuck is your skin so thin?
It's the lack of
Sorry.
melanin.
I'm not sorry.
Lack of melanin. Yeah, that's good. The society gaslights us on what is violence. Yeah, exactly. Yet, Gavin Newsom, having mental courts for the homeless, that's not violence as were, or the violence done to.
Here's something that happened in the
people.
news recently:
Mm-hmm.
Kidnapping brown people and shipping them up north.
What?
Texas Governor Greg Abbott and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis loaded up buses with brown people and shipped them up to Martha's Vineyard. I know Ron DeSantis did that. I don't know if Greg Abbott did that. I shouldn't say that.
Well, Greg Abbott did send buses of people trying to immigrate to the country over the way to Washington D.C. for that kind of dumb protest sort of thing. He's kind of well, I don't have to deal with all these brown people coming over the border. I'm going to send the problem to you. You deal with all these brown people, and yet it's just disrupted to the immigrants who just trying to have a better life, get a better life, and coming to this country, or asylum seekers as well, because that is perfectly legal for you to seek asylum, and the first step to seek asylum is come to a silent country like the USA. And yes, the ugly laws too, Emily Chambers, about how society just impoverished people and marginalized people is where it's just
so.
You have something to say, Tabby?
We're talking about particularly immigrants from Central and South America.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
He rounded them
on
up
a bus and sent them up to Martha's Vineyard, the place full of rich white people in Massachusetts.
To show them off as a political stunt?
To say, hey, You like them so much, you have them to try
Yeah.
and like embarrass liberals somehow.
Ron DeSantis, human beings are not your fucking chattel to use as political pawns. No, just what the absolute flying fuck?
No, I'm pretty sure that's what they are.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Is on the day beginning the beginning day of like Hispanic Heritage Month to the boot. Yeah, that just started on the 15th. Is where it's Hispanic Heritage like month. I'll think of like invite some people on to like chat about their heritage as were because like I'm sure if they would like if they were cool with that or like oh yeah they'd love to do that then they'll love to come on if they have spoons to do so as were like Joanna Roberts. I know that's she's proud of like
Oh,
her
they,
Hispanic heritage. Yeah. Mhm.
they.
No, Joanna
Um,
Roberts.
yeah, Joanna. Oh,
Sure.
Roberts. I
The-
thought you meant Blackheart.
No, no, no.
Sorry.
No, Oh, no, no. Oh, maybe I can ask that Joanna Blockhart. They would be awesome
Joanna
too.
Blackheart would have a lot to say.
Yeah. But no, I was thinking of my friend Joanna Roberts because like she's proud of like her heritage from her mom's side as well, which is why she hates the movie. She can't stand watching the movie Road to El Dorado because she's Hispanic and Aztec, and that's it. So yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot in that. That's just not great.
Yes. But
Yeah,
yeah,
El Dorado, is that the one with the llama?
No.
no, that's like Emperor's New Groove.
Yeah.
Martha's Vineyard took them in and taking great care of them. That's good that Martha's Vineyard is like at least doing that. But
Yeah,
like,
they actually had their high school students out there practicing their Spanish
hey, that's something.
because they were the only ones on the island who could speak Spanish to help them, organize and get food and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
But just the idea of just, oh, I'm going to just take a bunch of people who I've imprisoned and I'm going to forcibly move them across the country to make a...
There's some
almost like
kind of
that's an
word
act of
for that, I
genocide.
think.
Or a crime against humanity, something like that.
That's all.
It's fucking disgusting is what it is.
Yes, it is actually. Yes, crime against humanity is like just terrible. I mean, it's bad enough already what the U.S. does to like Haitian immigrants or Haitian like refugees, where they just send them put them on a plane and then send them back to Haiti, as it were. When
Same with
they,
Cuba.
yeah, when like those
Unless they have money.
yeah, when those Haitian asylum seekers were escaping Haiti because of the political turmoil as well as the earthquake, and it had to even go all the way to Chile and then migrate from Chile up to the USA, where they got whipped by like men on horses, and then we're just stuck underneath a bridge for some time, and then we're put on a plane and followed back to Haiti, and yeah. It's like
The U.S. has a long ass fucking history, along with France and other countries, of treating Haiti and Haitians like shit.
mhm.
To be fair, France started it.
Yeah, but like, but we continue
We have not
along.
made it any better.
Yeah, we did not help them at all. So, Buffy's Complicated. Yeah, that's the title of this episode.
Yeah, I started rewatching.
Who the fuck is? Oh wait, are we talking about the Vampire Slayer? Which
Yeah.
The Vampire
I know
Slayer.
shit all about that show. Other than like my mother binge watched it at one point, I watched a few little bits of it, got bored, and went and read a book or something.
Mhm.
Well, you were
I'm with
like
Tavi
7
on
when
this
it came
one.
out.
I was
But,
older, but I wasn't interested.
Is
I mean, Joss Whedon, awesome feminist, girl power, yay. And I haven't watched it in years and was reluctant to rewatch it because it turns out that he's a bully and an abuser and a sexual predator.
I remember the movie Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
That was even worse because that's not the movie he wrote. He wrote a feminist horror with comedy elements. They changed it to a comedy with horror elements that wasn't feminist.
Mhm.
But yeah, going through and watching it, it's like, this is a very, very white man feminist show.
Mhm.
And I'm not even at season 4 of Angel when he punishes Charisma Carpenter for a year. Charisma Carpenter, the actress who plays Cordelia, who got pregnant without his permission. And so he spent an entire year abusing the shit out of her and killing off the character.
Yep.
So slight trigger warning for the language, but a reviewer described it as the extended rape and murder of a beloved character.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
And that's Joss Whedon.
Yeah.
So you can imagine how awesome his episode on the complicated stuff around Thanksgiving was. A whole bunch of white people arguing over how they should feel about the genocide.
I don't know if there's going to be a Thanksgiving that my family's going to participate in this year. There wasn't like last year because of COVID, but it's just like, should I bring up this is a celebration of genocide to my family? That would be interesting to like bring that up with my family because my dad's conservative, the younger brother's a fascist. My older brother's just liberal. My older sibling that lives in a different state, lives in Oregon. They're awesome. Let's see. There's the irony that the land that they were sent to was given to his wife, so he didn't like have to give his slaves up, and when he died, yeah.
White people are bad. We're just bad at being people.
Yeah.
White people need to stop fucking identifying with whiteness.
Mm-hmm.
And that would just be a first step.
Yeah.
This. Oh, there's something wrong with me for me being white. I can't control how was I born or my skin color, stuff like that. Okay, yes, granted.
That's not what whiteness is.
Yes, exactly. Hey,
it's a culture and a heritage of bad things.
There are
Have you seen the meme floating around regarding The Little Mermaid?
Oh, that's right.
White people whining about it, and there.
Yeah, I saw that. That was dark and on point.
Ariel on top of the Confederate flag.
Oh no, I haven't seen that meme.
Okay, the one Joey shared on Facebook, which was like, just give them what they want, and it's like from the $89 mermaid with the white skin, but it's like the face of Donald Trump on the Little Mermaid instead. That's what they want. Because haters, stay mad. We're going to have a black Ariel, and that's awesome. There was like one Muslim woman who was just like, oh, just go head deep,
Go all the
into
way.
it.
Put her in a hijab. Yeah.
Yes, put her in a hijab too. Okay. I just got a message from Joanna Roberts. She's asking if anyone can like toss her some like grocery monies. And she also texts me for all the things as well. So I gotta like share Joanna Roberts' PayPal link and Cash App for like anyone, and I'll probably still give her money because I can't afford to do so. But anyone else can like jump in as well, because like even if like she gets like $200 right now, it's not saying that asking people to donate that much, but like whatever money that she receives, she will use it. She also has like. Should I share that as word? I know that she hasn't put up like a recent big bowl, but I know that like her son Casey needs the clothes as well. So it's just like general expense of being poor in this life, and yeah. So there's the links to General Roberts like PayPal and the Cash App. She hasn't put up a recent big bowl, but she always needs about like $1,000 each month just to live and pay for bills, and like food, and so, and yeah. And Phoenix still has like their GoFundMe ongoing, as where Keffels can get their GoFundMe funded by like $90,000 within like a week or so, and Phoenix has been struggling to get that GoFundMe being filled for like 4 or 5 years as well. David, do you have anything to promote other than like the well-being of like humanity, or like the goodness of humanity, or generosity and charity links?
Do you need help exorcising the ghosts from your church?
I don't think that's needed. It's been quite thoroughly exercised. No, No, I have nothing to promote. I'm not the promoting kind, not generally. So I just do whatever you want.
Taffy would like to share autistic women non-binary network,
Definitely.
black socialists in America, and indigenous anarchist federations, as well as like your local Food Not Bombs or other organizations like that that do perform mutual aids, or any other local projects helping the unhoused and homeless as well, especially. Uh,
Go
Summer,
help out the people doing shit on the ground.
yes, exactly. Hey, forget whatever like this online personality is saying, whatever like the drama is happening right now. Screw that noise. And I'm Summer Geek on Twitch, Summer Geek on Twitter, Summer Geek on YouTube. I'm streaming more often on Twitch now since I'm getting weekends off. Won't do that today. Gonna watch a movie with my brothers. It's by the director who did like a Place Further in the Universe. If you've seen that anime, so that's to be interesting.
You say
That was
places
great.
further than the uterus?
A Place Further Than the Universe is a great
Okay,
anime.
universe. Okay.
Universe, yes.
'Cause if it had been uterus, that would have been an interesting concept to start with.
I'm going to be streaming more on Twitch. Just don't know when or where. Emily Chambers reminds us that the Fluid Voice is tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, and that will be 1 a.m. UTC if I remember
Ozma in the
correctly.
Dark and several others.
Osman in the Dark, Chrissy Abbey, and the Prefect will be on hosting again as always.
Emily is one of the mods there.
Emily Chambers is a cool person as well. Share your links on page as well, to help out the elders in need. And John Brown, you're part of another podcast, aren't you?
Yes, Dungeons and Debacles, a D&D podcast where we're saving the world from evil red dragon cult. Although now we're fighting a hate plague by going full cop. Because, they might be infected, so we just gotta kill them all. And turn fire hoses on them.
Hey, Biden said, we're here to fund the
and
police.
I forgot to mention the best part.
Mm-hmm.
The people who are the victims of this plague that we've just gone full cop on. They're drow.
You're still complaining the whole time, aren't you, as well?
For those who don't know a whole lot about the D&D lore, the drow are elves with black skin.
Yes.
Tolkien is probably rotating in his grave.
Yeah, they're only
John
allowed to be
Barker?
evil if they're orcs.
Would you be offended if I said I'm very glad I'm not in your campaign right now?
I can't wait till this arc is done.
There is I have looked into a lot of the issues with the drow and their lore over the years, and
They used to be an always evil race, but now sometimes they can be good.
I am just going to say that as somebody with skin this pale, I don't feel like I have the proper experience to speak to all the things and various issues and things going on with the drow.
Yeah.
No, D&D has always had a problem with, the always evil races, and the fact that you go up against monsters, and some people wanted to start playing them as player races, and people said, wait, no, that ruins it because now suddenly they're people. Yeah, that's always been the problem, my dude.
Gary Gygax was a racist asshole.
Oh yes, that's
Wouldn't surprise me.
to talk about terrible curators that we already mentioned, Jackass
Orson
Karen
Scott
Rowlands.
I've read more by what's his name, Brandon Sanderson, The Alloy of Law. It's a book whose main character is a cop, but he was the son of one of the wealthiest families in the city, so he left the city to go out into the wildlands to be a vigilante cop, and he came back to be a vigilante cop in the city because politics. And there's another character who's made a study of law, and they actually brought up broken windows policing because it turns out that you can eliminate crime just by renovating the neighborhood. You don't have to deal with the systemic poverty, just fix the broken windows.
Oh, it's completely taking in that way of hey, maybe we just give people help to help, like, there people have a lot of broken windows, they have a lot of faded paint and that sort of things. Why don't we go and say, hey, would you like help? What kind of form would you like help? How would you like that directed? And
No, it's just making things pretty, and that'll lower crime because he doesn't know what
not
policing
actually
was about.
engaging the community and asking them what kind of help they want, so you don't do the gentrification thing.
No, they want to do the gentrification thing.
It's just the gentrification thing.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out the bar for being the good universe Brandon sent or Orson Scott Card was even lower.
Mm-hmm. And George repeat, that's nice. A demon to join your party and help out the players. That's actually kind of cool. Another terrible note to end the show on about mentioning terrible authors and terrible things were kill all your heroes. Just don't idolize anyone. I mean, you can
In
enjoy
Minecraft.
it like in Minecraft. It's like
I
the only
mean,
good. Mhm.
the kill your heroes thing is metaphorical anyway.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Hey,
That's
so
Things
like-
eat the rich.
I mean, the creator of Minecraft,
He was a
quite a
Hatsune Miku.
character.
yes, it's Hatsune Miku who created Minecraft because this guy Notch that like says he created Minecraft. He was actually not actually allowed at the Minecraft convention one time, as it were. So the
he was
fan base,
just a terrible person.
yeah,
Mm. Well, you also kind of ripped off the whole game from this other game called Infinity Miner or Infiniminer or something
yeah,
like
I
that.
heard about that. Mhm.
Lego.
No, I mean there was this other
Infiniminer is
game
an
that
open source multiplayer block-based sandbox building and digging game inspired by the games Infinifrag, Team Fortress 2, and Motherlode.
I can see the resemblance in Team Fortress 2, yeah.
Initial release date April 29th, 2009.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's pretty, as it's been established. I think it's even admitted by him, by Notch. So, but there are probably no copyright issues or anything like that.
It was open source, that's why.
Yeah. But I mean, that guy, he's just. I mean, sort of a lot of Swedes, I have to say, who get to that point where they are all of a sudden are filthy rich. They can be of quite humble origin and so forth, but a lot of them, they turn out to be complete assholes. I don't know where it comes from.
Because the sort of person who ends up becoming rich is the sort of person who starts out an asshole.
Or they become an asshole. That's how they get rich most of the time, because if they're not assholes, they tend to not get rich because they share.
I mean, a component is like we were talking earlier about, like with the music, people in the music industry and movies and even like we were talking about different book authors, like with the thing with just publishing books. I've seen a whole bunch of articles on, if you aren't white, it's very hard to get through to publishers and get your shit published, because these old establishments that have these histories that go back 50 or 100 years, they do have their roots in a white supremacist world. I mean, we haven't gotten rid of that white supremacist world. So it's like, I was reading an article about I believe Lakota woman, Native woman, who spoke up at the Oscars in the 70s.
She was attacked by John Wayne. He had to be restrained.
John Wayne, her interview was he was going to attack her and he was restrained, but he was totally was going to do it. And then he said some snarky racist shit afterwards.
The man who played Genghis Khan.
That's another
John-
name I've loved.
You mean John Wayne was racist?
Oh,
Always.
I don't know where.
Sachin
that's shocking.
Little Feather.
See, I think he
Yep,
did
it
post
was-
it.
She said, "Please stop portraying us in such a racist fashion," and John Wayne went to attack her.
Oh, it wasn't just only that. There was like an actual like standoff going on.
Found the article. I'm gonna
Yeah.
share it into the live chat.
Okay, you got it. Um, that she was trying to draw attention to because the United States was putting a media blackout and stuff. It's all in there.
Yeah.
Um,
We have a free press.
uh-huh. Yeah. But part of like that whole thing was the um that, you know, there are a lot of Republicans who I remember pulling the whole shit of, oh, like I remember this like back in like the Bush elections and shit, or no, after that. Like, oh, but the, you know, the Hollywood, it's so progressive, and they're gonna
Mhm.
just Hollywood has, I mean, it comes up every year, the Oscars, in various ways that black actors and indigenous actors or Asian,
Mhm.
whatever, Latin, et cetera, just on and on. The way their stories are treated, there is more now, but there is this deep-seated thing where the establishment of various forms of media and all of these other things, all these different industries, has been for a white men's club from the get-go.
Mhm.
It took them
So
3 days to get Chris Rock out of there. It took them 30 years to get Harvey Weinstein out of there.
mm,
Mhm. As I mean, 5 years ago, we still had like Scarlett Johansson playing like the Major in Ghost in the Shell.
yeah,
So yeah.
I, I I'm just gonna say that that movie just should not exist.
Mhm.
Um, but there is this thing when it comes to the amassing of wealth within a world that is dominated by these white, just kind of a block of white colonizer countries in Europe, Canada, the US, etc.
The Imperial Core. It's an easy abbreviation.
Imperial core. Um, there is a great deal where you have to be that person that gains that success as defined by capitalism. To a certain degree, you have to at least not challenge the powers that be, not challenge the system. Sometimes there are exceptions to that, but they are the exceptions.
Mm.
It is even like say there's a reason why you can get like be a pain in the butt and mention like Clarence Thomas.
Mhm.
Um,
Michelle
you can
Alexander said it very well. Occasionally, a black person can leap the hurdle and leave the hurdle very firmly in place.
Mhm.
because you can it really isn't it really comes down to, do you support the status quo of a world built around this, you know, capitalism, patriarchy, white supremacy? Like, if at the very least you don't challenge that, you will
It's the
have
Hillary
an
Clinton of it
easier
all.
time moving through, you know, various economic hurdles to amass wealth.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a
Hillary Clinton made it past the glass ceiling because she was willing to throw black people and other women under the bus.
Mhm. The super predators.
so it yeah, just because of the way all that is, there is this open question of how much of morality is a person willing to sacrifice in order to amass wealth. How much, if
Mhm.
somebody did amass wealth, how much morality did they, how much did they turn a blind eye to on the way up, even if they didn't actively, you know, kick people down off the ladder to go ha ha ha, that's funny, as they fell. How many times did they ignore that happening?
Mhm.
You
It is a fair question to ask.
know, I got to say, I think Hollywood kind of was somewhat progressive back in the 70s. YouTuber, I want to say Matt Baum,
Hmm.
has made a lot of videos about some pretty awesome, or at least very queer TV that came out back in the 70s. And that's also the era of, you know, the Jeffersons and things like that. There was a lot more black sitcoms on the few channels that existed. So this wasn't the era of the 90s when you had Martin, yes, but it was on cable.
Right.
So it was a pretty different era back then when Littlefeather spoke out. So I think the boomers who are speaking out about Hollywood being woke are complaining about something that happened 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago now.
Yeah, even like the topics I was reading as an echo, as I mentioned about like Three's Company. Okay, yeah, still not perfect representation, but you can see a queer positive message in that one because the Don Knotts landlord allowed John Ritters to be stay at the apartment to women since he's gay, as it were, which was there's just a lie that they told to allow that to happen, as it were. But like it was like again, still not perfect representation, but like Don Knotts was never opposed to it, as it were. And then
that was actually kind of a nice ironic twist because he would have been opposed to him being there if he had been straight. So,
yes. But also it's like then you also have like Will and Grace, which is in the 90s, and it's just like that you had one actor in like Eric, I forgot his last name, and like who's
is he
like
the campy one or the less campy one?
The less campy one, the straight man to like Grace, essentially. Like he was like, yeah, I'm straight, straight. And Sean Hayes never admitted whether or not he was gay or not, as it were. But like that was show was allowed to be popular on the air because it played into the stereotype of gay men, unfortunately.
Yeah,
But at the same time, it was also based on the writers' real lives.
No, that's true. Yeah, so there's that.
So, but then so was Friends. So I mean,
Friends was based on like the writers realized in the 70s, though they just like upscaled it to the 90s, and then,
actually I think it was the early 80s. For that.
That's something like that, yeah.
Which is why they were able to live, alone in such fabulous apartments.
And Eric Monahan, thank you, Emily Chambers, and Don Knotts was gay as fuck. Yeah, I can believe that. I can honestly believe that. But I was trying to end the show like earlier, and then we started.
Yes.
and then we got talking again.
We got talking again.
There's always more shit to complain about.
There's always more shit to complain about. So thank you everyone for like tuning in, listening, and watching. Very much so. Thank you to our patrons. Off the top of my head, Flora, Marty, Von Rack, Tim, Joe McClory, the Fuckboys, Ely, and I think I got everyone.
No, I forgot Marty.
No, I think I mentioned Marty. Okay, so Marty, Tim, yeah. So thank you all
Marty,
the
Tim,
patrons.
Joe, Flora, the Fuckboys.
The Fuckboys, yes. Phone rack. We'll figure out the Patreon situation later. We'll just like
I sent a thing. They sent me an email. I'll have to actually focus on that.
Yeah. Okay. But like until then, practice self-care, take care of yourselves, and stay awesome.
Practice direct action.
Direct action